Hi, I'm Alec from easierhabits.com, and I coach entrepreneurs in how to unleash the power of good habits to launch a new business. The last couple of weeks, I have talked about how my goals led me out of a successful engineering career to work for myself, and also how I made that transition financially less risky. So those are great things to think about if you're considering working for yourself. But ultimately, what you really want to know, I bet, is what will make you successful in business. And it's not financial planning, although you need that to know how risky it is and when to go into business, when to quit your day job. It's not even this, the business model canvas. This is actually a specific version of the business model canvas called the Lean Canvas by Ash Moria. And it goes through different aspects of your business like problem, solution, key metrics, unique value proposition, unfair advantage, channels, customer segments, cost structure, revenue streams, etc. These are all helpful things to think about. And I do talk with my clients about all these things, but it does one very misleading thing. It makes business success seem like a formula. Now, what it does help you with is identify assumptions you're making that are wrong, that are going to make it so your business never takes off. If you're not talking to the right people in customer segments, you will never have a successful business. If you don't know how to reach them, if you don't have a product with a unique value that stands out in the marketplace, et cetera, right? You do need to be able to think through all of those pieces, and it's helpful to identify your assumptions so you can test them and iterate on them. Because most people, whatever you put in those boxes, first thing, it's going to be wrong. You're going to have to figure that out. And it's exactly figuring out what is the right thing to put in each of those boxes that is a skill, right? So when it talks about customer segments, the skill there is market research. And if you're trying to fill out the lean canvas or the regular business model canvas without the right skills, it's like trying to match someone's pitch when you're tone deaf. Or it's like being in the bleachers at a football game, jumping down onto the field, throwing on some pads, and running in because you've played a few games with your buddies at home, right? It's likely to be confusing, frustrating, and quite possibly embarrassing. And that's because business isn't a formula. The business model canvas makes it look like that, but success in business is a set of skills. So one example to really drive this home. One of the segments in Lean Canvas is customer segments, right? And you can write something in that box, but if you don't actually have the skill of market research, what you write in that box will not be helpful. When I started out as a coach, I had a lot of background in product development. I had an English major, so I was confident in my communication skills. I had done corporate training. I've been a crisis counselor. I had a lot of skills that were very helpful in creating the product. What I didn't have as much was market research because I always relied on product managers and other people to do the market research for the products I worked on. So I had to figure that skill out myself. And an early mistake I made was that I joined a lot of free entrepreneur groups. And while that was a great place to test some of my ideas, and I still occasionally test my ideas by offering a free workshop so I know if there's something there, if it's helpful, so I can get questions about what's not clear, etc. It's great to test ideas in general, but is not specifically a good place to find clients because these are people who are self-selecting for wanting free resources. These are not people who care about developing their business skills enough to invest money in it, or people who maybe at this time don't have that money but might in the future. And so you can do some long-term professional development maybe in there, and eventually if you help people be more successful in their business, they might take notice of you. That's a very long-term strategy. Much quicker is to actually find an audience that is already proven to buy what you want, right? I had an audience I thought should want to buy what I had to offer. But if I had looked for people who bought entrepreneurship books at a minimum, right, that would be helpful. much better people who buy online courses having to do with business, or people who join a paid community, or people who go on paid retreats for professional development. Those are all sorts of people who actually pay money to invest in their business skills and who I might have a productive conversation with as a coach, right? But you don't know what you don't know. And so the things I put down for customer segments and the places I was going to try and find customer were all off because I hadn't yet learned the skill of finding the right clients, part of which is asking the question, is this audience proven to buy products or services in the category that I am selling in? So I have some bad news. Business success is not a formula. And it's not even one skill. It's many skills. Each skill with a steep learning curve that takes a long time to master. But the good news is that you can start practicing those skills as a hobby or a side gig without quitting your job. Starting to develop those skills is no riskier than taking piano lessons and spending the time to practice. That's because there are a lot of opportunities online these days where much of the hard work is done for you, sometimes in relatively free services or services that only take money when you get money. So for example, you might be a freelancer and there are a lot of freelance websites where there are already people posting jobs looking for the specific goods or services that you offer. This streamlines the process of market research and marketing, right? You still have to figure out what makes a good profile and a good response to a job posting or a good proposal. But what you don't have to do is find out who wants your services and figure out how to connect with them yourself. You don't have to cold call, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of these platforms streamline getting paid and other helpful collaboration tools so that you can focus on just delivering your goods and making sure the client's happy. So that cuts out a lot of potential, not only just tools that you would have to develop, but skills that you don't have to develop. So you don't have to develop all the skills on the business model canvas at once. You can focus on a few skills like developing your services and comparing your profile with other people. Another example would be affiliate marketing, where you don't even offer a product of your own. What you do is advertise somebody else's product. So the product is created. It'll probably give you some great ideas for a specific audience that you could sell that product to, although I imagine a really successful affiliate marketer might be creative enough in their market research to find a new audience that hasn't been advertised to as much. That's a little bit trickier, but still. So you can do a little bit of market research or a lot of market research, depending on your facility with that. You build content that attracts that audience, and then you just point them to the product. And you don't have to worry about supply lines or shipping or customer service. So that cuts out a lot of the later end of running a business. So those are just two examples of how an online business is simpler. And especially in the case of affiliate marketing, what you're doing is just taking a cut of whatever sales you get through your content marketing channels, right? So you're not necessarily paying for anything. You might pay for a website minimum to get up and running. With the freelancer marketplace, if the marketplace is already provided for you, you might want a portfolio website, or you might be able to get away completely with just using that one platform and not needing a website of your own, and you're not paying for the hosting of the website, etc. It could be essentially free, except for the amount of money that is taken out of your paycheck when you get paid, or etc. Right? And so these are zero or minimal financial risk options that allow you to start practicing whatever business skills you need and that you're passionate about. So there's a great story. I link to a podcast in one of my blogs about Pat Flynn. He's branding himself away from the beginner entrepreneur he used to be, but if you can find some of his early podcasts or interviews or whatnot, it's fascinating because a lot of times you don't get to see entrepreneurs early on in their career, people only pay attention years later when they've forgotten some of the details, the nitty gritty of what it's like to start out. And they want to present themselves often, maybe even just subconsciously, as more successful than they actually were. Whereas like someone right in the thick of it, you will sometimes get a more honest and usually a more detailed description, right? But anyway, so I kind of fixated on him because I discovered him at a point where he still had these early materials up. And did find an early interview where he discusses the process of becoming an entrepreneur and working for himself. Again, link below. But just to summarize, he was working as an architect and he was studying for an optional green architecture certification. And he thought he would put those study notes online. It would help him learn the stuff better and maybe it would help somebody else. But he was not thinking about a business at this point. So he learned how to make a website and I think WordPress and put it up online and everything. And he obviously, in putting content there, learned and practiced the skill of developing quality content in his niche, right? And then he got fired for his job and he was trying to figure out what to do. He went into the analytics and I think he might have said that he hadn't even checked that before, but he realized that 1,000 people were coming to his website each month. And I think he is somewhat lucky. He didn't build this content this way, but he was somewhat lucky in the sense of he had unintentionally created a niche where people buy services, people buy study guides. And so he had people coming to him from his blog saying, this is great stuff. Do you have a book? I want it kind of all collected in one neat, organized place, right? And so since they requested a book, he made a guide and he learned the content, the skill of developing content, right? Developing a product, not just a blog, but something a little bit more formal, a book. And then even some of his customers who bought that said, you should be charging more. I would pay more for this. So he started learning a little bit more about like merchandising and price points and whatnot. So that was a great journey where he started as a hobby and kind of, if you look at him, learned one skill at a time, right? Like learning the web stuff, learning content, learning product development, learning pricing, just like one skill at a time. That worked great because it started out as a side gig. Now, eventually, using those skills that he built, he dove deeper into a number of other ventures. And so that was not the end all be all of his business. And your side gig or hobby does not have to be what you want to be doing for a living. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. It should just be something that you're naturally interested in or something that you enjoy. But if it gets you practicing the skills you need in business, like the technical skills, like product development, like customer feedback, market research, etc., then that is really what you want to be focusing on. Now, if you're watching this video, chances are you've been thinking about starting a business and you haven't done it yet. So there might be a couple of steps you need to prepare you to really be able to invest your time and focus into a side gig. So let me run through a few things that usually stop people. Number one is a lot of people don't get started because they see starting a business as risky. Again, from what I just went over, there are a lot of low or no cost business opportunities online, so it's no riskier than taking piano lessons. So that is not a reason to procrastinate, my friend. Let's move on. So maybe another reason why you haven't started your hobby or side gig, why you haven't started working for yourself, is that you don't have the energy. This is a health thing. We are a chronically tired society. I myself work regularly to kind of clear my head from brain fog and tiredness. But this is something that can be improved greatly by finding the right routine. The routine is going to look different for everybody based on their biology and lifestyle, but things you could look into, aside from just getting more sleep, would be improving the quality of your sleep by cutting out eating and screen time an hour before bed. There's other things that you can do, having a slightly cool temperature, making sure that your room is really dark, etc., that can improve the quality of sleep. Now, of course, exercise and eating can also play into this, right? Uh, you may not be a person who wants to jog or hit the gym, but there are a lot of ways to exercise. Find one that works for you. I did a lot of jogging last year, and now I find that that's just too low intensity, and I don't want to spend that much time doing it. So now I'm jumping rope. But that's something I experiment with regularly. As long as I usually have something with some intensity, I find that has huge dividends in energy. And of course, there's the eating. You can grab healthy snacks like veggies and apples, like put them in a mini fridge closer to where you work, so you're not tempted to, go downstairs or the office kitchen and snack so much. There's all sorts of things that you can do to improve your energy. So if that's your problem, okay, fine. You may not have the energy to start a side gig now, but that is something you can work on. Experiment with habits until you find one that makes tangible differences. Again, not something that you feel like you should do or help somebody else. It should be something that's noticeable. And when you find a habit that noticeably improves your energy level, even if you skip it for a day, you will feel the lack and want to get right back in it. So it doesn't require nearly as much discipline as you think if you find the right habit, one that actually works. It only really requires discipline if it's a habit that doesn't help you that much and you feel like you should do it, but you hate doing it and it doesn't help you. That's just depressing, all right? Don't pick a habit like that. Find one that works for you. Very similar, maybe you don't have enough focus. Maybe it's really hard for you to sit down and focus on things. I think there's an Alex Huberman podcast. I'll throw the link below where he talks about concentration. And it's true that starting to concentrate on something actually releases like cortisol, I think, and other stress hormones. You can check his actual podcast. I'm not a scientist. But one thing I learned that is that concentrating is genuinely hard. But there are things that you can do to improve it. So, for example, you can practice meditation, which is basically training your focus. You can stop multitasking. That means don't watch videos or listen to music, usually with words, while you're working, because that can be too distracting. Sometimes I'll listen to a song on repeat. So eventually it kind of becomes background noise and tunes out, even if it has lyrics. But, stop doing that. Maybe finding times during your day where you're specifically not on call, scheduling that out so people know not to contact you. That can help you not multitask so you're not burnt out as much, so that you're more productive during the day and that you have more energy to spend on your side gig or hobby, your new business skills in the evening or weekends. So another reason why people often put off starting their business is they say they don't have time. And fundamentally, everyone, even Elon Musk, has 24 hours to work with. It's a question of what are your priorities? And if you write out everything that you do during the day and look at that list, chances are, if you're the type of person watching this video, there's something on that list that is less important to you than starting your own business. So I'm not saying I'm not into hustle culture. My clients are people for whom work-life balance is important with families, with their own, health and sanity, right? So I am not advertising never ever watching TV. Studies have shown that an hour of TV can lift your mood. More than that, not helpful. What I'm saying is don't binge watch shows regularly. Find the things that you can cut out in your schedule and make time for the things that actually matter. And then the other thing you can also do is ask for help. If you're the type of person that wants to start working for yourself, but you are so weighed down by trying to fix everyone else's problem, right? The solution might be that you delegate more at work or ask for help with projects at work. Not everyone's going to help all the time, but you'd be surprised at if you have a well-scoped question, not a vague, do this for me, do everything for me, but if you have a very particular ask, specific ask, a lot of people will be happy to help you. And this is true if you have a family at home. You can ask your spouse for extra time working. Often, my wife and I will negotiate when her critical time to work is and when my critical time to work is. So I take kids after they come home at school, which means I get the morning to work on my videos, for example, when they're not screaming at me, right? So we negotiate, and but the time after school for her is critical because she works with a lot of people in Japan who aren't up in the morning in US time. So we kind of negotiate our schedules so that we have the right time when we need it. And man, even if you have kids, like, kids can help out. I've tried to have my kids clean up in the evening for, I don't know, a year or so, and they were kind of doing it. It was better than nothing. But man, the moment when I figured out how to get them to really clean a room, like do a good job, whew, that was awesome. And that gave me some of my time and energy back in the evening because I wasn't following them around all the time and telling them that they'd missed a spot there or they needed to pick up that, right? So you can ask for help to get more time. And lastly, one big reason, this is not one people say or admit often, but I think it's true. One big reason why people don't start that side business that they're thinking about, or that passionate hobby gig thing, whatever it is, right? One reason why they don't start it is because they don't want to do it, right? You might feel like, what you need to do is create the next billion-dollar unicorn app for Silicon Valley. Like, a lot of people, when they think entrepreneurship, that's what they think. That's the only way to be an entrepreneur, or that's the only thing that matters. I worked with someone who wanted to start a design agency and right out of the gate wanted to compete with established design agencies that probably already had repeat clients and had multiple teams of people. And I had to ask, like, all right, are you as a single individual going to be able to compete with this agency out of the gate? All right, let's find out something much more approachable, something that you can do. And I specifically encourage you, if you have a day job, to pick something you enjoy for its own sake, to pick something that you would do even if you didn't get money for it. Now, there's some things that might be hobbies that you don't want to sully at all with business. Like, that's not a good deal, right? I like playing the guitar as a hobbyist when I don't want to get good enough to actually be paid for the music that I produce. But two, even if I did, I like that as a personal thing for me. All right, but find something, whatever it is, that you enjoy doing and you might consider doing for money. And don't shame yourself, right? I'm a nerd, right? So if I wanted to become a paid dungeon master, right? That people pay me to run Dungeons and Dragons adventures for them. That's a business, right? There are people who do pay for that. And starting that as a side hobby would require me to look into market research. I'd have to figure out where do people go to pay for dungeon masters, and how do those dungeon masters run their games? What kind of adventures do they pay for? What kind of people pay for those things? That basic market research, that's legit business skills right there if I'm doing it. And if I'm doing it with something that I love so it feels like fun, I am much more likely to actually follow through. Like the Pat Flynn story, what you start as a hobby or an initial business does not have to be your business for the rest of your life. But there are so many skills that take a while to learn from the business model canvas. Don't wait years putting it off and then quit your job when you think you have enough saved up and start a business without having practiced any of those skills. Start something small that you enjoy now, and you will build those skills so that you're ready when you will have more time or means to work for yourself. So I would love to hear your thoughts. What are your obstacles to starting up a side gig? What kind of side gigs would you like to start? Or if you have tried a side gig, let us know what it was and what you learned from it. I'd love to hear in the comments down below. If this video has been helpful, subscribe to get other videos from Easier Habits to help you be successful in your new business or new product or service. And also like the video that is a service to other entrepreneurs so that they can find it and hopefully get the same help as you. Now, if you're overwhelmed by the huge variety of skills you have to learn as an entrepreneur and you want to shorten that learning curve and get more confident in developing those skills, well, maybe a coach would be right for you. People who are professional musicians have voice and music coaches. Professional athletes have coaches to help them keep at the top of their game, to keep at peak performance, to shorten the learning time and acquiring new skills. So why not you as a business owner? And that is what I am passionate. I love breaking down the potential overwhelming business of starting a new product or a new service into weekly actions that you can turn into permanent skills. If that sounds good, go ahead and get a free consultation. I have a link below to my site, easierhabits.com, and I would love to chat with you in a free, no pressure consultation, what your goals are, where you're headed. At the very minimum, you will leave with a clear sense of your long-term goals and specifically what you can do in the near term. And if it's a good fit for both of us, then we can talk about week-to-week coaching to help you stay at peak performance as you execute your plans. Until next week, make big changes, one small habit at a time.